Andrew closed his computer. He estimated that the situation would only get worse, but he didn't have the time or energy to understand it anymore. What he needed to do now was to learn how to make talismans according to the ancient book. First, he had to learn how to make elemental talismans. In fact, since he had deciphered 300 characters, he knew that he could make elemental talismans. He had even made several talismans according to the ancient book, but none of them worked. However, he was intrigued by what happened later. Since the incident of the sun disappearing in the morning, he suddenly discovered that one of the useless talismans he made was emitting the same light as described in the ancient book after a successful talisman creation. The talisman emitted a shimmering golden light, then suddenly contracted. The talisman seemed to come alive, floating in midair, suspended there until Andrew retrieved it. Andrew speculated that the incident of the sun disappearing in the morning marked the beginning of the so-called return of all laws to their origin. This talisman had been activated by some mysterious power and could suddenly be used. He carefully studied the rules of talisman making in the ancient book, and finally understood that the symbols on the elemental talisman were the pathway guiding the laws of heaven and earth. It was the necessary route for channeling the chi of nature into the talisman's body. Therefore, when carving the symbols on the talisman maker must infuse it with chi according to certain rules. Only then, after the talisman is completed, can it resonate with the laws of heaven and earth and activate the talisman's body. As for the talisman that was accidentally activated, Andrew couldn't comprehend it. He didn't infuse any chi into the talisman at that time. He speculated that when the ancient book emitted light that night, he used the talisman as a bookmark in the book, and the book somehow transformed his fake talisman in an incredible way. Andrew didn't know when the ancient book would emit light again. It wasn't very reliable to rely on the light of the ancient book to transform the talisman, so he decided to cultivate the chi of heaven and earth first. This energy, known as the most primordial energy between nature in the ancient book, had been expelled from the entire solar system by some mysterious laws in the past 5,000 years. In other words, there was no chi injected into the earth at all during these 5,000 years. According to the ancient book, this was called the sealing of the celestial orbit. After the sun disappeared in the morning, the abnormality of the talisman made Andrew instinctively feel that the celestial orbit was approaching mightily, and perhaps a small amount of the chi of heaven and earth leaked into the earth. So he settled down at night and practiced cultivating chi according to the method described in the ancient book. This stage, as described in the ancient book, was called chi cultivation. Simply put, it meant refining and introducing the attribute-less chi between nature into one's own body as one's own chi. The greatest difficulty in this process was how to introduce the chi into the body, which was also the most challenging part. The chi between heaven and earth was colorless, tasteless, and formless, and normal human senses couldn't perceive it. The simplest way was to use a kind of talisman, called the Tian Di Yuan Fu, to directly introduce the chi into the body through the talisman, and then use the chi in the body to wash over his own consciousness and spiritual awareness, opening up the fourth dimensional spiritual awareness. Andrew understood it as what was called the sixth sense, achieving resonance between spiritual awareness and the external chi between nature. Andrew didn't have this kind of talisman. The only activated talisman he had was the Fire Yuan Fu, used to activate the divine fire. Obviously, he couldn't use this simplest method, so he could only use the most primitive method, which was to silently recite the method described in the ancient book in his mind, and constantly adjust his thinking and spiritual awareness according to the method. The conditions required were that there must be sufficient chi between nature around and the qualifications of the practitioner. Andrew had known for a long time that his qualifications were average. According to the introduction in the ancient book, he had calculated based on his own situation, and found that he was far behind so-called geniuses. He was just an ordinary person. This made him somewhat frustrated, but with the ancient book in hand, he still felt very lucky. Andrew hugged the ancient book, sat on the floor, and began to try cultivating his chi. In the past, whenever he read novels, he always felt that these things seemed simple, but now that he was trying it himself, he realized how difficult it actually was. Perhaps it was because there was too little natural energy in the world, or maybe his aptitude was too poor. Andrew spent a whole night practicing for 6 hours, but he didn't feel anything at all. His first day of cultivation didn't bring any miracles. He understood that in order to succeed, he had to put in a lot of effort and practice for a significant amount of time every day. After a night of tossing and turning, Andrew felt a strong sense of defeat. He decided to cover his head and fall into a deep sleep, but he was awakened by the ringing of his phone. It was a call from his colleague Jay Den. They had a very good relationship, and just a few days ago, Jaden was questioning if Andrew had gone crazy. Andrew quickly answered the phone and heard Jaden's excited voice saying, "Brother Chu, something big happened this time. You are amazing. You have to help us." "Yes. You mean the sun disappeared yesterday? Didn't the TV explain that?" Andrew cautiously replied. He was starting to feel afraid of being ridiculed by his friends. "Brother, you are still hiding this from me. The sun disappeared again just now, for a full half an hour. Don't you know? WTF? Everyone in the world is going crazy. Go out and see the people on the streets. They are all going crazy. It disappeared again." Andrew really didn't know. After failing in his cultivation, he had been sleeping with his head covered, so he wasn't too shocked by the sun disappearing again. He thought he already knew the final outcome. According to the ancient book, due to the restoration of the celestial trajectory and the convergence of all laws, the energy of the universe temporarily isolated photons and other particles, which means that the sunlight cannot reach the Earth. The algorithm for this rule was too complicated for Andrew to understand from the excessive complex texts and graphics in the ancient book, so he couldn't calculate how long this period of darkness would last. "Brother Chu, what should we do now? Is the Earth going to be destroyed? We are all extremely worried. I've been telling you guys earlier, and now you believe it. How did you guys curse me before? Now you are in a tragedy." Andrew felt a surge of excitement from being finally vindicated. For the past 3 months, he had been treated like a madman. This suppressed fear finally found a release, giving him an indescribable sense of pleasure. "Brother, please stop scaring us. What the asterisk is going on? Are we all going to die?" "No, we won't. I know the specific situation, and all I know is that on the 28th, the whole world will be plunged into darkness. So, you guys should prepare more warm clothing and a lot of food. I don't know how long it will last." Andrew truthfully told them what he knew. Plunged into darkness. What about the sun? If the sun disappears, what will the Earth revolve around? If the Earth stops spinning, we are all doomed, right? Don't think about the worst case scenario. The sun didn't disappear. The experts on TV were partially correct. If the sun disappeared out of thin air, the Earth would lose its gravitational force of rotation, and we would have died long ago. The sun is still there, so don't worry. It's just that we can't see it. Maybe after some time, it will recover. Andrew thought for a moment and explained it this way. If he were to explain it according to the ancient book's explanation, and what Jaden said, it would probably take 3 days and 3 nights. "Brother, please don't lie to me. You are our idol now. Just 3 days ago, I was still a madman. Today, I've become your idol. You guys." Andrew suddenly felt a sense of petty triumph.
Hi, damn it, no signal again. Jaden angrily turned off his phone and hurriedly left the company. The intermittent signal made people feel even more panicked. There weren't many people left in the company building. Most of them didn't come to work anymore. Panic spread everywhere as humans faced an unknown disaster.